When you were a child, you were taught to doubt yourself. They told you that fear of the dark was nonsense, that strange feeling when entering certain places was just your imagination, that dreaming of falling meant nothing, that unexplained chills were an exaggeration. But what if all of that had never been fantasy? What if they were warning signs that you learned to ignore over time? Science has begun to prove something uncomfortable. Many childhood fears were, in fact, early warning signs, the brain and body perceiving threats before logic could explain them. The problem is that growing up in our culture means silencing these warnings. You learn to call intuition anxiety, to treat bodily signals as mere fussiness, to push silent symptoms aside with coffee, distraction, and willpower. But the body doesn't forget. It continues to speak, only quieter, deeper, in the form of initial symptoms that appear out of nowhere. Persistent fatigue, strange discomforts, disturbing dreams, environments that drain your energy. These are hidden symptoms, signals you haven't been trained to recognize, but they're there, persisting. And here's the part almost no one tells you. The more you ignore these silent signals, the louder your body needs to speak later. What starts as an annoyance becomes a pattern. What seemed like childhood fear becomes automatic behavior. In this video, you'll understand why so many signals your body is giving you were dismissed too early, and how this may be affecting your decisions, your health, and even your perception of reality today. If you've ever felt something was wrong before you could explain it, stay until the end. Some symptoms you shouldn't ignore are going unnoticed now, and after this video, you'll never see things the same way again. The crows know your face, and they hold a grudge. There's a curious detail that few people notice, but which serves as a warning sign about how the mind interprets the world. Crows recognize human faces and remember who has mistreated them. This isn't a metaphor, it's real memory. The body reacts to this as if it were a silent warning from nature, one of those bodily signals that say, "Pay attention." When someone ignores this type of animal intelligence, they also tend to ignore early warning signs within themselves. That's where the silent symptoms of disconnection arise. The person thinks it's all an exaggeration, but the body has already understood the risk. Don't ignore it when something simple seems strange. Sometimes they are silent signals asking for a deeper understanding. Researchers have observed that when specific masks are used to scare crows, they react negatively whenever they see that face again. This is an early symptom of how emotional memory works, not only in them, but in us as well. How many times has someone entered a room and felt a strange tightness without knowing why? These are signs that your body is telling you that something there has already been registered before. A good practical exercise is simple. When you feel this sudden discomfort, write down the context, place, people, physical sensation. This habit helps to identify hidden symptoms before they become bigger problems. Don't ignore these subtle reactions. The most interesting thing is that crows warn other crows. One learns, and the whole group begins to avoid it. This acts as a collective early warning signal, something humans often ignore. When you disregard your own symptoms that you shouldn't ignore, you end up repeatedly exposing yourself to the same stress. An attentive mentor would say, observe patterns, not isolated episodes. If the body always reacts the same way to certain stimuli, these are silent signals asking for a course correction. And curiously, this logic of memory will reappear even more intensely when we delve into the brain's internal states, especially those that arise when control seems to slip away. The dream where you fall forever is your brain. Rebooting that classic dream where a person falls without ever touching the ground isn't just strange. It's one of the brain's oldest warning signs, silently trying to reorganize everything. While the body rests, the mind tests systems, clears excesses, and recalibrates emotions. When this happens frequently, early warning signs appear that almost no one takes seriously. The person wakes up startled, heart racing, but goes about their day as if nothing had happened. But these bodily signals don't appear for no reason. They are silent symptoms of accumulated mental overload. Don't ignore repetitive dreams. They are often initial symptoms of something needing adjustment. Neurologically, the sensation of falling occurs when the brain perceives a rapid disconnection between muscles and consciousness. It's like restarting a frozen computer. This process, although natural, becomes a silent signal when it is repeated too often. A practical example: people who sleep little, use screens late into the night, or live in a constant state of alertness tend to have this dream more frequently. An attentive mentor would suggest something simple and effective, creating a nightly ritual. Low light, no cell phones for at least 40 minutes. Light reading, books like Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker help to understand these hidden symptoms. Small adjustments reduce symptoms that you shouldn't ignore. The curious detail is that the body pulls the person back with a spasm, as if saying, "Hey, I'm still here." This physical reflex is one of the signs your body is telling you that something has gone wrong. Ignoring it can lead to more fatigue, irritability, and lapses in attention. Classic silent symptoms of modern life. When the mind starts demanding a restart so strongly, perhaps it's not just sleep that needs attention. And what's most unsettling is that sometimes the problem isn't just in your head, but in the entire environment you call home. The house is alive, and it's making you sick. There's a little discussed but extremely real warning sign. The environment where someone lives is constantly communicating with their body. Homes accumulate humidity, mold, invisible dust, constant noise, and even inadequate lighting, generating early warning signs that manifest as unexplained fatigue. A person wakes up feeling unwell, experiences recurring headaches, strange irritation, but continues their routine thinking it's normal. These are classic silent symptoms of the environment affecting health. The body perceives it before the mind. Don't ignore it when your body's signals always appear in the same place. Many people feel better when they leave home and worse when they return, without realizing that this is one of the biggest early symptoms of a toxic environment. Mold, for example, can generate hidden symptoms such as brain fog, mild allergies, anxiety, and even sleep disturbances. A practical example: observe if the signals your body is giving you decrease after a few hours away from home. If so, it's worth opening windows daily, using a dehumidifier, washing curtains, replacing old pillows, and even trying warmer lighting at night. These are simple actions that reduce symptoms you shouldn't ignore. The most unsettling point is that the body adapts to the discomfort, and then the silent signals become the backdrop of life. The person begins to find it normal to live tired, heavy, or lacking mental clarity. An attentive mentor would always say, when the unease seems too diffuse, investigate the environment. Sick homes generate tired bodies. These warning signs rarely appear all at once. They accumulate gradually. And curiously, this instinctive perception of the strange, of what doesn't add up, also appears in another unexpected place, especially when the brain identifies something wrong even before reason understands it. Your brain knows clowns are wrong. There's an almost instinctive warning sign when someone looks at a clown and feels discomfort without being able to explain it. The brain recognizes something out of the ordinary. A fixed smile, exaggerated emotions, eyes that don't match the expression. These details trigger deep early warning signals linked to survival. Even those who say, "I'm not afraid," often show subtle bodily signs. Tension in the jaw, shortness of breath, goosebumps. These are silent symptoms that arise before rational thought. Don't ignore these automatic reactions. They exist to protect you. From a neurological standpoint, the human brain is an expert at reading micro-expressions. When these don't match, initial symptoms of distrust arise. It's the famous "something doesn't add up." This same mechanism appears in everyday life, when someone seems too friendly, too calm, or too kind in inappropriate situations. A practical exercise is simple. Observe if your body reacts before your mind. Tightness in the stomach, sudden discomfort, or a desire to distance yourself are signs that your body is telling you to slow down and observe more closely. These hidden symptoms are often ignored out of politeness, and this takes its toll later. The curious thing is that the rational mind tries to explain fear as an exaggeration, while the body continues to send silent signals. An experienced mentor would say, blind trust is the opposite of emotional intelligence. When you learn to respect these symptoms that you shouldn't ignore, you become better at filtering environments and people. The feeling of strangeness doesn't call for panic, it calls for attention. And this ability to perceive the wrong before the obvious also appears in even more extreme situations, especially when nature itself reveals creatures that seem to have come from a nightmare, but are very real. The real-life kraken keeps trophies of its battles. For a long time, the kraken was treated as a legend, but science has shown something unsettling. Giant squid really do exist, and they carry deep battle scars on their bodies. This serves as a powerful warning sign about how nature records conflict. Scars don't appear by chance. The same thing happens in the human body, only more silently. Chronic tension, recurring pain, and constant fatigue are early warning signs of unresolved internal battles. The problem is that many people normalize these silent symptoms and move on as if nothing is happening. Don't ignore it when your body starts accumulating marks. These squid bear suckers, torn off from previous encounters, veritable physical trophies. In humans, the trophies are usually emotional. Persistent anxiety, hypervigilance, irritation without a clear cause. These are initial symptoms indicating that the system is always in defense mode. A practical example helps to understand. People who live under constant pressure tend to have neck pain, a locked jaw, or shortness of breath. These are signs that your body is telling you that it never fully relaxes. Simple techniques such as conscious stretching, 4-7-8 breathing, or walks without a cell phone help reduce hidden symptoms before they become something bigger. The most important point is to realize that the body doesn't forget unresolved battles. It records everything. When someone lives accumulating wear and tear, the silent signs appear earlier and with greater force. An attentive mentor would always warn, don't wait for collapse to listen to the symptoms you shouldn't ignore. If creatures of the deep carry visible marks of survival, imagine what the human body does in silence. And this invisible pressure, when it accumulates too much, usually manifests itself in even more overwhelming ways, like forces of nature that don't ask permission before striking. The walls of water that crush you. Deep in the ocean, there are veritable walls of water that move silently and crush everything around them. For the human body, this acts as a powerful symbolic warning sign. Invisible pressures also compress from within. A person feels heaviness in the chest, mild shortness of breath, exhaustion, without a clear reason. Classic early warning signs that are often ignored. These bodily signals don't shout, they whisper, and that's precisely why they become dangerous silent symptoms. Don't ignore it when fatigue seems greater than it should be. These internal walls usually stem from accumulated emotions, too many responsibilities, others' expectations, decisions put off. The body reacts with initial symptoms such as diffuse pains, memory lapses, or a feeling of always being behind schedule. A practical example is very helpful. If a person notices that they only relax when completely alone, This is one of the signs that their body is telling them that social pressure is excessive. A mentor's recommendation would be clear. Create spaces of silence. Walks without music, real breaks during the day, and less hectic schedules reduce hidden symptoms before they become chronic. The problem is that adaptation makes everything seem normal. Just like at the bottom of the sea, the pressure increases gradually, and the silent signals become more intense without dramatic warning. When the body starts asking for a break and the mind insists on continuing, symptoms arise that you shouldn't ignore. An experienced mentor would always remind you, constant pressure doesn't generate strength, it generates wear and tear. And when this wear and tear exceeds the limit, nature usually responds even more violently. Sometimes like a storm that lifts everything off the ground without asking permission, the storm that throws you into the sky. There are storms so strong that they literally rip people from the ground, throwing them into the air like leaves. This may seem like an exaggeration, but it serves as a clear warning sign. Accumulated invisible forces always find a way to explode. Something similar happens in the human body. Before collapse, early warning signs appear, such as extreme irritability, sudden insomnia, or emotional crises that seem to come out of nowhere. These bodily signals are warnings that something is about to break. The problem is that many people treat this as weakness. Don't ignore these silent symptoms. When the internal system is under too much pressure for too long, the body seeks a quick way out. A person may experience tachycardia, mild tremors, or a sudden feeling of loss of control. Initial symptoms that are frightening but instructive. A practical example, those who constantly endure everything tend to explode in safe environments with people who are completely innocent. This pattern is one of the signs your body is telling you that you've been at your limit for a long time. A wise mentor would suggest releasing tension consciously. Regular physical activity, daily unfiltered writing, or even therapy focused on emotional regulation can help dissolve hidden symptoms before the internal storm gains momentum. The most dangerous thing is when a person prides themselves on enduring everything. Then the silent signs become increasingly extreme until the body decides on its own when to stop. These are symptoms you shouldn't ignore because they are usually accompanied by real consequences. An attentive mentor would say, "No one is thrown into the air without warning. The warnings always come beforehand." And curiously, some of the most disturbing warnings don't appear as pain or fear, but as something alive, strange, and deeply uncomfortable that settles in without asking permission. The human botfly. There's a warning sign that's repulsive just to think about. The botfly, or human botfly, lays larvae that grow inside the body without being immediately noticed. The most frightening thing isn't the pain, it's the initial silence. For days or weeks, there's almost no discomfort, just a slight unease. This pattern is a perfect mirror of silent human symptoms. Something is wrong, but it doesn't scream. These are early warning signs that many people ignore because they seem too small. Don't ignore persistent discomfort, even if subtle, when your body sends you signs. Initially, a person only feels itching, local heat, or a strange sensation under the skin, clear initial symptoms that go unnoticed. Translating this to real life, how many times does someone experience constant irritation, repetitive thoughts, or persistent fatigue, only to see it normalize? These are signs that your body is telling you something is gradually developing. A practical example, if a physical or emotional discomfort always returns to the same spot, it's worth investigating. Regular checkups, basic exams, and even frank conversations with healthcare professionals help reveal hidden symptoms before they become something bigger. The most important aspect is understanding that silent problems grow in the dark. The longer they go unattended, the harder they become to remove. An experienced mentor would say, The body doesn't fail without warning. It warns in layers. The symptoms you shouldn't ignore almost never appear dramatically at the beginning. They start small, persistent, almost too bothersome to be taken seriously. And when you put all these signs together, memory, dreams, environment, instinct, pressure, and silent intrusion, you realize that many childhood fears may never have been exaggerated, just misinterpreted. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognized these warning signs, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Throughout this video, you realize that many silent signs were never exaggerations, never weakness, never imagination. They were early warning signs, signals from the body, initial symptoms trying to protect you in a world that teaches you to ignore everything that doesn't make a sound. And now that you see this, there's no way to pretend you didn't notice anymore. The big turning point happens when you stop fighting these warnings and start using them to your advantage. When you learn to listen to hidden symptoms before they turn into crises. When you understand that there are symptoms you shouldn't ignore because they are intelligence in the form of sensation. Few people learn this. Few people are taught to read the signals their body is giving them, and those who learn change the way they decide, live, and protect themselves. So, if this video resonated with you, if at any point you thought, "This has happened to me before," I invite you not to stop here. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The next videos will delve even deeper into these silent signs that go unnoticed by most, but shape the lives of those who learn to listen to them. Because true knowledge isn't noisy. It's subtle, uncomfortable, and transformative. Sign up, stick around. Your body is already paying attention.